What's up, spell slingers? My name is Garion John Wells.
I'm Drew Flitton.
And I'm Cory Janibagian.
And this is Untap
Upkeep.
Drink.
Beer Up.
Hey guys, just want to jump in real quick here before we start the episode. I'm sure that everyone has heard of COVID-19, the coronavirus. We wanted to make sure that we brought the subject to hand because you're going to hear about it from everyone else. We just want to take this time to look at it from like a Magic player's perspective as well as someone who enjoys drinking with friends.
Yeah, obviously we are kind of surrounded by other people many of the times when we're playing Magic. And here on the show, sometimes we share beers with, the same glass when we shouldn't. So we're here to just kind of reinforce the idea of obviously trying to limit your contact physically, washing your hands, not sharing glasses, each getting your own glass and, keeping your hands off of everybody's things. This is a really serious outbreak that's happening.
It's literally a pandemic at this point in time.
Yeah,
so.
it's worldwide, and so we want to make sure that everybody's having fun, but also being safe.
Yeah, absolutely. We do encourage people to, try beers, to share beers, but now isn't the best time to be doing so from the same glass. Like, you're more than welcome to crack a bottle and pour another glass out for someone else. Like, it's okay to share. You can wash extra glasses. You can't recover from illness so easily.
And obviously, we have heard from WOTC and MTG Arena as well about some of the upcoming events being canceled.
So we've got events in Houston that are being canceled, moved to Minneapolis, just at a later time. And then we've got events in Copenhagen. It's getting canceled, moved to, I guess not canceled, just moved to Prague. And again, at a later time.
Yeah.
And then the one in Charlotte, again, at a later time, about a month later, in Seattle. And then I think the one in Japan is also getting impacted. I don't know how that one's resolved just yet. And also everyone's pre-release is getting impacted as well.
Yeah, here in the United States, it's going to be a little different than it is around the world. There are some areas that are heavily affected and some of the pre-releases just won't be held at all. But here in the States, it's a little more lenient as of right now.
Yeah, WOTC put out an announcement that WPN, Wizards Play Network stores.
Yeah.
You still can go buy pre-release pass. You can still go buy the pre-release packs, the kits, as well as the Commander product and take them home. And they're letting people set up kind of at-home pre-releases. So just like, you and your friends get together and play. And I think that that's a good idea and a bad idea. But like anytime you have that many people coming in to interact with the customer's, service member of any sort, then like you're exposing them to risk and then everyone else to it. And like, it would be
They're
great.
not going to not sell their product, but they're trying to make it a little less likely.
And also pre-release is hype, you know. So I think it's dope that they're allowing for that sort of thing to happen. And if everyone was planning on going to pre-release anyways, they're not losing out by making the pre-release kits.
Well, and the other thing I read is that the WPN stores aren't going to be affected by the numbers. Like, I know that they have to reach some sort of margin to keep their WPN status.
Yeah.
And WOTC has said they're going to basically waive those at this point because they know that it's obviously not the store's fault at this point.
Yeah, and they really should encourage stores that have low numbers almost just because it means that, you're not getting people in a room together. It's like, I think it
means they're being safe.
Yeah, I think the state of Utah at this point in time has banned any gathering larger than 100 people.
100, yeah.
And so, like, that's a pretty big impact, especially for Utah, who plays it, I feel like, pretty fast and loose a lot of the time when it comes to stuff like this. And if they're making an impact at that level, then it says where this is at. When the NBA and, like teams like Real Salt Lake start to vote for the MLS to postpone their season, that it's starting to impact, on a wider scale. And I think that people are playing it cautious, and I think that a lot of people are getting frustrated by that, but I think it's still the correct move.
So obviously we want you guys to be safe.
Drink safe, drink smart.
Drink safe, smart, practice good hygiene, and, try and band together in your small numbers instead of going out to these big old events just for a little while until this starts to blow over. But anyway, guys, I know that you're probably just about as tired as I am about hearing about COVID-19, so let's get into this episode.
Welcome back, guys. We're back for another episode in our Commander series, and this time we're diving deep into Commander 15, which is actually a special one for us because this is kind of where we got started playing Commander and actually took Magic seriously.
Yeah, this is where our Commander journey started and where I think just our interest in Magic really started to pick up because like before we played and it was fun, but it was all just like janky shit. And this is like the first time where we sat down with a pre-constructed deck and kind of dissected what it was and
actually
why
played Magic the Gathering.
Cared about what cards we actually put in decks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, understanding that it's not just a random deck, that it was a deck that we were going to have for an extended period of time, and so each upgrade we made for it mattered.
Yeah.
So, of course, we want to just make sure that you guys are checking us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We are trying to move things into the YouTube realm, getting video and stuff set up. And to that effect, we set out a survey to actually figure out what you guys want from us. So we do ask that you do fill it out, and we have noticed an immediate impact as far as how we're trying to set things up here. And with that, we are kind of changing how we're doing the beer reviews.
Yeah, so we're going to try this out. We're going to introduce our beers, and then we're going to continue this episode, and then we'll give you a full review towards the middle to end of this episode. We want to dive right into the Magic. We know everybody's itching to get into them cards. So,
we got some good stuff.
So today I'm drinking the Epic Brewing Company's coffee stout called Son of a Baptist. It's a coffee stout made with cacao nibs, and looks great.
Looks great.
Stoked.
Smells great.
Yep, sitting at 8.0% ABV and an unlisted amount of IBU. So we'll take a guess.
Probably 60.
Somewhere around there, probably.
So I'm drinking the Two Evil Geyser Gose, which is an ale brewed with Icelandic moss, herbs, kelp, and sea salt. And this is actually a crossover brewing between Two Roads and Evil Twin Brewing.
Indeed.
So I'm looking forward to this.
It's Two Evil as in TWO evil, not TOO.
Yeah. So it's a 5.5% ABV, and then I couldn't find any IBUs, but since it's a Gose, it's probably on the lower side.
And last, but certainly not least, we've got Boulevard Brewing Company with their whiskey barrel stout. So this is another barrel-aged stout. Surprise, surprise.
Whoa.
I do enjoy me some of that. 11.8% ABV and 32 IBUs. It's a small glass. Like, it's all right.
He's dense.
Yeah, he thick. And with that, we'll go through all of like our normal tasting notes towards the middle of the episode. And like we do every episode, we want to make sure that you are drinking responsibly if you are drinking with us, especially with a thick boy, like an 11.2%. We're pretty excited about these beers, but there's one special edition I've got to mention. So this is kind of like a significant milestone for us as Magic players as well as just friends. So having something like this was kind of special to talk about. And so I brought on a very special scotch as well. And so that's part of the Game of Thrones limited edition series from Diageo, I don't know, whatever the fuck their name is. They're a distributor who came up with a very clever marketing scheme to get a bunch of really good scotches into a series for Game of Thrones. And so this one specifically is the House Targaryen Fire and Blood. So it's a Cardew Gold Reserve single malt Scotch whiskey. This is one that I have not opened yet. So this was like the christening of this Scotch. So kind of excited to dive into it and see how it is and see what you guys' opinions are on it.
Yeah, watch the video. It's really cool. The case that it comes in is pretty dope.
Yeah, it's quite the masterpiece of what they've done with them. So let's get into it. We've got the enemy color pairs. We've got the white-black Orzhov, blue-red Izzet, black-green Golgari, white-red Boros, and blue-green Simic. I guess I should start it off with the Orzhov.
You should.
So the Orzhov was all about enchantments and had this kind of like odd sub-theme of life gain, and like kind of played into the like black themed like using your life as a resource for like card draw and stuff like that. Heavy enchantment theme. The commander, which we'll talk about here in a second, played off of you playing enchantments, and that's how you got experience counters. And experience counters were a wild ride that we got into.
Yeah, it sort of leaned into the Orzhov enchantments, and then black, like using life, and then the white's like token kind of theme.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see that with the commander.
Yeah.
So the next one was basically just, is it spells? And yes, it is spells.
Yeah, big spells, little spells, just spells.
Yeah, and you'll see when we actually read Mizzix, the reason why Cory says big spells and little spells, because your set of spells scales with the game based on what you're playing. So you do need a full catalog of spells.
Yeah, you need basically little spells to keep racking up your counters and then just casting big spells for cheap as hell.
Yeah, so instant sorceries, and like you would with a deck like this, secondary theme of card draw and burn.
Yeah. So the next one we have is Golgari, and it was just a grave recursion deck with a secondary theme of sacrifice and +1/+1 counters, as you'd expect in Golgari shenanigans.
And then we've got the Boros white-red giants and angels with a secondary theme of big creatures. So it's just the freaking romp and stomp, kind of almost like to me looking at it, it almost seemed like it had like a little bit of the Voltron kind of aspect to it where you want to like really load up your hero, you know what I mean? But it's just big, stompy assholes.
And last but certainly not least was the Simic heavy +1/+1 counters. An odd kind of secondary theme that was sort of tribal. There was like a little bit of elves and snakes and
yeah, it was a kind of an unfocused deck, but because the main theme was +1/+1 counters, it kind of didn't matter.
Well, and the
could
fact
just
that it's
generalize
Simic
it.
already.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I guess that's a good point to get into the cycles.
Our first cycle.
Our first cycle is just the commander.
The commander cycle.
All right, so like we said, we got my boy. We got Daxos the Returned. So 1, white, black, legendary creature, zombie, soldier. So if you're familiar with the Theros story, which we kind of covered when Theros Beyond Death came out, the Returned are the masked zombies that come from the underworld. And so Daxos is one of those, and he is a 2/2 with whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you get an experience counter. Great. Not the most exciting, but once Daxos out, you actually see where the synergy starts to come in immediately. For 1 white, black, put a white and black spirit enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. It has this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of experience counters you have. So when playing this deck, I always tell people the same thing. Your first experience counter is the only one that matters. I do believe that because making tokens is significantly easier than playing that first spell after having to cast Daxos.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's kind of an underwhelming ability at first, so once you start racking up those experience counters, paying 3 mana for like a 9/9 or a 10/10, it gets seriously out of control. It's kind of heavy on the mana sink.
Oh, I mean,
in the sort of wrong colors, but if you support it, it could be really good.
Yeah.
But it is like enchantment, like heavy. Like you can't. I don't think you can build this deck without being enchantment themed.
Yeah, you probably have to have like realistically 20% of your deck as enchantments because you just have to get the first one off, but you also have to get the first one off.
Yeah, luckily enchantments are really good.
All right, this next one is our Izzet Spellslinger type commander. It's Mizzix of the Is Magnus. 2 blue and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature goblin wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost greater than the number of experience counters you have, you get an experience counter.
Dope.
Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each experience counter you have. So like Cory was saying before, you want to get 1 CMC instance, 2 CMC instance, 3 CMC instance, and then as you start casting these bigger instants, they start costing less because of your experience counters.
I think a lot of people build this deck with extra turn spells, and so once you really get going, you can just sort of chain them all together and cast extra turn spells for 1 or 2 mana and just keep going and then just storm everybody out and do some crazy stuff with this guy.
Yeah, Mizzix, she's insane.
Yeah.
Like realistically speaking.
Yeah, right off the bat, a 4 mana 2/2 doesn't feel so good, but the fact that she comes in and then she just starts ramping you in Izzet colors, it just gets out of control.
Yeah, when you start to cast, 3 mana spells for basically just the 1 color pip, then 4, then 5, and the fact that you can sequence them to the point where you're only paying 1 for each step up. You pay 1, and then you pay 1 for the 2 CMC, then you pay 1 for the 3 CMC.
Yeah.
That works that way. It's the way you want it to work, and it's
well, and like
scary.
Cory was saying, once you get up into those higher echelon cards that are really expensive, even having the cost of those means you can take that spell that should take your entire turn and turn that into just the first half of your turn, like an extra turn spell or an omniscience or some crazy shit like that. All of a sudden you're ready to go.
I think one crazy thing about this is that it affects X spells.
Yeah,
so if you have 10 experience counters, you can just cast X where X equals 10 and save 10 mana. And you're just like, I'm just going to fireball for 1 million or something or whatever you need.
Yeah, or whatever mana you have. plus whatever experience counters you have.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous when you look at it in that aspect.
And then usually whenever you cast an X spell, you're always going to get an experience counter because it's always going to be most of the time one more than whatever you cast last.
And so that is kind of like the other deck theme that you see with that. It's just X spells because
it's
always +1.
It's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Music's good shit.
Seriously.
Also good shit. Marin of Clan Neltov.
So this is my girl. She's 2, a black and a green for a 3/4 legendary creature human shaman. Whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, put it in your hand.
Free regrowth or reanimate.
Yeah, so for a while, this was the commander for recursion and just graveyard shenanigans until Muldrotha came out. And then people were like, oh, Muldrotha is just,
blue.
You can have Marin in it and add blue.
The thing is that Marin is so much easier to abuse. And the fact that you just get
it's just
the effect.
Free. Yeah.
You just get it at your end step as long as Marin's on the battlefield.
Yeah, you can just, if you play Marin and then sacrifice a bunch of things already and then have something in your graveyard, then at the end of your turn, you can automatically bring that out. You don't need to pay its mana cost. You don't need to cheat anything. You just get it.
Yep.
And then at the very worst, you put it into your hand so you can play it on your turn.
And if I'm
way better.
Not mistaken, Marin is the only one of the cycle where even if you have 0 experience counters, you get the effect, right? Because even at 0, like you choose a creature card, and then it goes to your hand.
Yeah, because
like it's a free regrowth at 0.
Yeah, it's less than or equal to the number of experience counters too you have. Otherwise, you put it in hand. So you can just choose something. Even if nothing died this turn or sacrifice or anything, you just put it in your hand.
Which is just
you just get extra card draw the moment you cast.
Just get
yeah, you can basically Eternal Witness something and then get your Eternal Witness back out after it dies and just keep doing. You can keep doing these graveyard loops.
That's why she's spooky.
Yeah, it's some strong stuff.
If you want to talk about something that's not very spooky.
Yeah.
We're talking about a 4-mana giant soldier. It's what everybody wants. Calamity, Disciple of Eroas. 2 red-white for 3/3 legendary creature giant soldier. It's a small giant. She's got double strike and vigilance. Makes her, a bit bigger. Whenever you cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 5 or greater, you get an experience counter.
Yeesh.
Yikes.
So just like how we said with Marin, you can just play Marin, sacrifice 10 things, get a 10 drop out of your graveyard. The chances of you casting 10 5-drops after Calamity comes out is practically 0.
Oh, you mean, red and white?
Especially in red and white.
Yeah, I didn't have to finish. But she also has Calamity, Disciple of Eros, gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you have. And this is where that kind of like one-punch Voltron idea comes in.
She does get big and scary.
But, she doesn't.
Let's be real.
That's the thing. Yeah. I think the idea is you ramp up turns 1 through 3, ideally, play your turn 4, and then turn 5, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. You cast one creature spell.
Each turn.
Or one creature spell a turn. Because it's not just spells with converted mana cost 5 or greater. It's specifically creatures, which limits her even more than she already is.
And that's just so hard for a Boros deck. Like if it was...
Well, we're using angels and giants.
Oh, man. If they would have made this a 3-color and at least given it green, it'd be better. But I've never played this deck, but I can already tell you.
I have.
I don't think I want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if they ramped you into those big creature spells, maybe it would have been better. Like sort of how Mizzix does.
Right. Yeah.
But it doesn't get you anything. It gets you a +1/+1 counter.
I was going to say the upside is not that good. And the hurdles to jumper, I think this one's exponentially worse than the other.
Yeah, and I think this is the only the deck where the sub commanders are way better than than this actual commander, which sucks for experience counters because they're dope. But we've got one more commander to talk about.
We've got Azuri Claw of Progress, 2 green and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature, elf warrior. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. We're already on a much better track. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you have. It's literally the exact opposite of the last commander and in the best way.
cares about little dudes, but makes them infinitely better
Way
and
bigger.
puts a lot more counters on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I just make 4 tokens. Boop, boop, boom.
Yeah, because it's enter the battlefield, not play. Like, it's crazy.
In
Yeah,
every
not
way, it's
cast,
better, yeah.
not play, just ETBs.
Yeah.
Doesn't care how you get them, why you got them.
And it's a Zuri, which is super dope to be back. Just
Zuri,
like Daxos.
go crazy. And, yeah. All right, so obviously we've been shitting on some stuff a little bit hard here.
We've already made some opinions.
Yeah. Let's just take a quick look at the other legendary creatures that you could have for the decks.
So one of these was a brand new creature that has been printed before for these commander decks or for anywhere. And then the next creature was just a reprint that fit these sub-themes in these colors.
All right, so again, starting with the black-white, the Orzhov, we've got Karlov of the Ghost Cancel. Just white-black, nice and simple. For 2/2, whenever you gain life, put 2+1/+1 counters on Karlov of the Ghost Cancel. For white-black, remove 6 +1/+1 counters from Karlov of the Ghost Cancel. Exile target creature. It's a pretty steep cost, but if you're able to abuse life gain effects, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah, I had this deck for a hot minute, and then I took it apart because it was insane. But Uncle Carl is a beast because you can just gain life off of anything and everything that everybody does. You basically play the Soul Sisters, and just
Hell yeah.
whenever anybody plays a spell on their turn, you try and gain life, you extort a bunch, and so you're always putting +1/+1 counters. You can Voltron people out and then just exile all the threats that you need to. It's a pretty insane deck.
So this is, you're trying to gain life multiple times in a turn, right? Not gain a lot of life once.
Yeah, because he only cares about each time you gain life, not the amount that you gain life. So you can just gain 1 life. Rack up counters.
Many times.
Yeah.
The other one we have is Teysa, Envoy of Ghost, 5 white, black, legendary creature, human advisor for a 4/4. Vigilance, protection from creatures, which is pretty cool. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, destroy that creature. Put a 1/1 white spirit. Put a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token flying onto the battlefield. This one is very, very mixed. Like, it's super cool that, one, pro creatures, right? Doesn't mean that she can't get in combat with other things. In fact, she wants to. Especially when she has vigilance there. But it's kind of weird to purposely allow your opponents to hit you. Granted, you can just destroy it, but I don't know, it's the mana cost always is just like the big thing that's just like
7 mana costs for a creature that doesn't really do anything when it comes in. It just sort of protects you because the creatures still do damage and you'll still die, but they'll just lose the
Eventually, yeah.
creatures.
She's super cute, but I don't think she's cute
She's
enough.
an incredible blocker.
oh yeah, she's fantastic. And vigilance, like attack all day, don't give a fuck.
7 mana for a 4/4. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like a super aggressive build.
Yeah, she's
But for
much
7 mana.
much better than 99 than as an alternate commander.
On the other hand, in the Mizzix decks, we've got Arjun the Shifting Flame. Honestly, pretty fucking dope card. 4 blue-red for a 5/5 legendary creature, Sphinx Wizard, flying. Whenever you cast a spell, put the cards in your hand on the bottom of your library in any order, then draw that many cards. I think we've talked about it before, maybe once or twice, but drawing cards is one of my favorite things to do, if not my favorite thing to do in Magic.
It's It's basically play your best card and then grab some more cards through a wheel to play your next best card and then keep doing that. There's some pretty nasty things you can do, like that enchantment where whenever you draw a card, people mill cards. And so you just cast cantrips and stuff and you're just milling everybody out left and right.
I think that's the way that I think is the strongest deck out of it, just because like you can just build wheels into it.
Yeah, because
you cast, then you draw, then you wield, then you draw. And
yeah,
you just,
it's just wheels on wheels on wheels.
it's dope.
The next one we've got is Malik. Is it Paragon? 4 blue and a red for a 2/4 legendary creature, weird wizard.
Solid reprint, this one.
Yeah. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an instant or a sorcery card. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your library, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. It sounds all upside down.
Copying spells is dope.
Yeah.
Basically having
Sorcerers are dope.
Basically
Extra
having
card
an
draw.
extra card in your hand at all times is pretty dope.
Big fan.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you're playing this right, and you're playing low CMC cantrip type shit anyway. You're just flying through
Yeah,
because
and, like,
you're able. It's not even like having one
stacking
extra.
the top deck, stuff like that.
Yeah, this is in my Storm deck. At least I think it is. I might have cut it just to make the deck that is just the Melic deck, and it's a lot of fun. Like, just every single time you do anything associated with Melik, you're like, you feel powerful.
Yeah,
like
you're basically getting value no matter what you do.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, so the next one we have is Mazarek Crawl Death Priest.
I have never seen this card.
Dude, this card's sick.
Yeah.
It did work the first few times I had Marin, but I
sure.
cut it because it wasn't exactly
Not quite good enough.
what I was doing. But it's 3 black-green for a 2/2 legendary creature insect shaman with flying, and then whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So this slots really well in Corval decks right now. But for those decks, this was the deck that made people sacrifice things and had a lot of sacrifice outlets that weren't necessarily creatures. So there were like a lot of land outlets and things that say tap this, sacrifice, and do something. And it capitalized on a lot of other people using their fetch lands and stuff like that to just amass a giant board. It's a pretty fun deck.
Well, especially when you're already playing lower CMC stuff to trigger those counters for Marin. You're like, take all these little chumps and turn them
Yeah,
into big
that's the thing.
boys.
It is mostly token go wide,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
put counters on everything. But it's definitely like, it's a weird Golgari aristocrat kind of thing where you sacrifice things and pumping up things, putting counters on things.
Yeah, it's kind of like it is still like aristocrats, but it's like it really feels like aristocrats adjacent.
Yeah, it's like a weird sub theme,
Yeah.
kind of.
And the other one we have here, my boy,
Oh yeah.
Gerard Golgari Lichlord.
So he's black, green, green for a 2/2 legendary creature zombie elf. He gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard, and then you can pay 1, a black and a green, and sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. And then sacrifice a swamp and a forest. Return Gerard from your graveyard to your hand.
Built-in recursion, good way to end games.
He gets big. He's really hard to get rid of, and he can just make everybody dead real fast.
The boy slaps.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do, because I have him in my merit deck right now, is you play Emrakul for free, basically, because you cheat her out of the graveyard, swing for 13, then sack
Everybody drain.
her to Gerard for 13, kill everybody, and then whoever got hit by it takes 26 at the end of the turn. Like
That's a
and then,
little bit.
Yeah, if you can do the same thing with Lord of Extinction. Like, there's some nasty things you can do with Gerard because it's just 3 mana for an activated ability. You can literally just sack your entire board.
Well, and the
Make
fact that
big
he
dudes.
gets real fat too is definitely worth mentioning because
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
sometimes
like
you
people-
just need a body.
Yeah, but I feel like people direct like their removal at Gerard because they see like the
he's a hit
potential
stick for sure.
Yeah, and it's a lightning rod for just like
Which is
this
kinda
is scary
good.
Because
it's absolutely
he can kill the
yeah.
whole table easily.
Yeah.
Because you can do that, his ability, multiple times each turn.
All right, let's look at the Boros. It's not great, but they have a really fucking dope commander here. Anya, Merciless Angel.
3 red, white for a 4/4 legendary creature, Angel. She's got flying, of course, and Anya Merciless Angel gets +3/+3 for each opponent whose life total is less than half his or her starting life total. As long as an opponent's life total is less than half his or her starting life total, Anya has indestructible. So she's
She's a 7 mana 5/5 indestructible.
no 5.
No,
mana.
she's a 5 mana 7/7.
5 mana 4/4 that might be a 7/7.
I feel
late
like
in the game.
yeah, I feel like most of the time though she's a 5 mana 7/7 indestructible because you don't play her forever.
I mean, because it takes you forever to get to 5 mana. Hey.
Don't tell them my secrets.
Yeah, I think Anya,
She's certainly better than the other one.
she's definitely better than Calamity, but
And that's even with Calamity having fucking experience counters
Yeah.
attached to it.
yeah, she's okay. The fact that she cares about your opponents being halfway dead is really hard because usually once they're halfway dead, they're probably going to die soon. And then
Yeah, it's weird
and
how
then
that works,
And then
man.
she'll go back to a 4/4. Having indestructible is dope.
But what is cool though is that she gets +3/+3 for each opponent,
Yeah.
right? So even if they die, as long as someone else does, you still have that effect. And the second half is just as long as an opponent's life total. So really, you just have to get one down, and then you can kind of use them to your advantage of just like, oh, you're helping me here, so I'm just gonna protect you. And then you start to whittle down the rest of the board, and then all of a sudden she's a 10/10, then she's a 13/13, and she just obliterates someone. But it is a lot of work to get there.
You had to jump through some hoops to make this Boro commander work. Another problem is that she doesn't do anything.
Yeah, she only cares about
5
herself.
mana 4/4 flying. She doesn't progress the game. She only cares about what your opponents are at, basically.
Yeah, and the rest of your deck could do God knows what.
Exactly.
And it won't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that one's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is kind of a Voltron commander where you build it so that you're suiting her up and you're trying to get that, like, you're trying to get someone below 20.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to kill everyone else. And then she gets, like, pumped up. And then you basically just try and one shot, like, sequentially. But you have to, like, go through everyone for it, which is not a great time. So the other one is Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight. Hey, you know what Boros really loves? 7 mana 5/5s. Sorry.
Yeah.
7 mana 5/5 angels.
Oh, yeah.
That's what matters, right?
You're paying for the holy blessing.
The flavor.
Yeah.
Also, Gisela is just dope.
Yeah.
So, flying, first strike. If a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, that source deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. Not just your sources, any source. If a source would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent half that damage, rounded up.
God damn. See, there's a commander.
This is an awesome commander. 7 mana is very steep, but doubling all damage onto everybody else for anything
and their permanents.
and having damage to you is dope.
4 times change there. Yeah. What I love about
if only
Gisela,
you could ramp her out.
What I love about Gisela, though, is that I don't want to play her as a commander. I want to cheat her out.
Yeah.
And she's real good when you cheat her out.
Yeah, seriously.
You know who she would be really good with? Feather.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the weird, recursive, dumb shit you're doing, just doubling all that.
Oh, yeah. Wow. She's definitely great in the 99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's move on to our last color pair. Here we've got Cassetto Orochi Archmage, 1 green and a blue for a 2/2 legendary creature, Snake Wizard. For a green and a blue, target creature can't be blocked this turn. If that creature is a snake, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
So this is kind of that weird snake sub-theme that we were talking about. Because Cassetto is really good at making things unblockable, which is mostly all you care about. But then he also cares about snakes. Yeah. He's weird.
I mean, it seems kind of cool.
It's dope to finally have Cassetto because there were all the Kamigawa, like his sons
references
and daughters
and stuff,
or something like that.
What's weird is like this card does feel sort of underwhelming like the other ones, but it's only 3 mana. So it's like you pull this out on turn 2 or 3, especially in Simic, and you're just like, well, if it sits there for 3 or 4 turns, I don't really care.
Yeah,
if I can use it when I need it, great.
Pumping stuff up.
Yeah, but if you gotta like wait till turn 5, 6, 7 to do something, it better be.
Yeah, and I think ideally that deck would be built around unblockable dudes, just getting a lot of damage through and just like doing weird Simic stuff.
This next Simic gal, one of my faves. Fuck.
Yes. So this is Prime Speaker's Zagana. So it's 2 green, blue for a 1/1 legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. 6 mana 1/1. Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. When Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to its power. So she cares about big dudes and drawing a lot of cards. All awesome Simic stuff.
Like, some green stuff and some blue stuff.
The fact that it's enters the battlefield, not cast, it means you can bounce them.
Yep.
And just keep doing all the stupid blue stuff.
Well, and by the time you're casting her for the first time, you're going to have something out there.
Yeah. And then I think
more than one.
Yeah. Especially in Azuri where you can put +1/+1 counters on things and make things giant and then play Prime Speaker and draw 7, 10 cards easy.
And also, like, even if you're playing Prime Speaker as a commander, it's pretty heavy costed. So you actually get shit out, then play it, and then just like refill your hand, just have a big creature, and like, honestly, it scales surprisingly well with the game.
Yeah.
All right. We guys say we actually talk about these beers finally.
Them beers. So I've been drinking the Son of a Baptist by Epic Brewing, and it is a coffee stout with cacao nibs. Now, on first taste, all I got was coffee.
Just the nose is exactly that.
Yeah. It's very, very like
cold brew.
Yeah, like smooth but dark coffee. You know what I mean? There's no like cream kind of texture there. It's not real. I mean, it's sweet, but it's not real sweet, you know? But then as you let it linger, you get that almost like a dark chocolate kind of sitting on your tongue after the fact. You know, it's subtle, but it's pretty good. I mean, I like this Son of a Baptist one. I think the coffee is less harsh. You know what I mean?
I disagree, but that is also because I have been sipping on a different beer.
Yeah.
You feel like the coffee's harsh
Right
to
away,
you?
you definitely get the coffee notes.
Yeah, coffee's
There's a lot of strong
intense.
alcohol notes as well.
Yeah.
Which it is 8%, so that's not
Yeah.
unreasonable, I guess.
It is very bitter. You definitely get a lot of chocolatey coffee notes, like you said, and it does linger. You get some of those malty sweet notes, but it's pretty solid.
All right, I've got it's a beer we've been holding on to for a while. I don't know if it's aged terribly well, but it's the Boulevard Brewing Company's Whiskey Barrel Stout. So I love me some barrel aged stouts. This one, it's all right. I'm not really going to complain about it, but it's not
It's not everything you
flavorful
wanted.
and doesn't have like the most interesting characteristics that others have. It's sweet, kind of like on the nose especially is pretty sweet. Kind of like fades into an alcohol taste, and it has this almost like, I don't know, there's like a yeasty flavor that I'm not a big fan of. I don't really know what it's from.
So right off the bat, the alcohol notes will just punch you in the face from the aroma. But it's actually a lot sweeter than I thought it was going to be. I'm not getting... it's a whiskey barrel
Whiskey
aged.
barrel.
I'm not getting a lot of whiskey notes from it. It's a really good stout.
It says it's only 32 IBUs, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's really sweet. Not really.
Yeah, I'm not getting any really bitter notes from any of the malts or anything. It really does. But it's a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. I think a lot of the whiskey notes might come through the alcohol bite, but
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
kind of not what
you
I
want
was
out of it.
into.
Yeah. It just feels heavy.
Yeah. It's really smooth, but that just the alcohol just sits with you.
Try this again and tell me I'm not wrong. It tastes like a little bit of like cherry or like a fruit that's like a dark fruit.
Yeah, that's kind of like the
yeasty
note that I was talking about. Like I can't really put a name on it, but it is like a sweet, not quite fruity, but like
It's not a malt
It's
sweetness.
not funk, but it's not.
There's something to that.
kind of like leathery almost.
To be honest with you, it's good, but I think to me the alcohol is what makes it hard. Like you can't really chug that fucker.
This is
'cause that
definitely a
harsh
sipping,
boy.
sharing beer.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm still working on the very first pour that we had. Like, it's
Yeah,
still
mine
mostly full.
is delicious. So this is the Two Evil Geyser Goza. It's from Two Roads and Evil Twin Brewing, so it's a collaboration beer. And oh my god. So right away, it says it's an ale brewed with Icelandic moss, herbs, kelp, and sea salt. I don't get any of that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that.
I don't
beer.
know what any of that tastes like really, besides sea salt.
I don't know what kelp tastes like.
Yeah, well, I guess
Salt, sea.
exactly.
The sea.
yeah. But it's just a very run of the mill in the best way. Gose, like it's a very nice, crisp, sessionable, summery sour. It's definitely got that salt component, which Drew, you probably hate, or you probably are going to hate. But I don't want to say that it's generic, but it's not doing all these crazy things that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's got like so many things on the
It's
label.
so solid though. Like it is delicious.
That is really fucking good.
Yeah, it's not Icelandic moss, herbs, kelp, and sea salt.
No.
Like
I mean,
I don't
it
know what
is-
any of that means.
It is very salty
Yeah.
compared to beers in general. It's not, I don't want to say it is salty because it's not like if you just had that and you tried it, you wouldn't be like, damn, who put salt in this? But like, up next to regular beers that are more sweet,
Yeah,
you can definitely tell
it's
there's
got
a salt
that
component.
salt component. Yeah,
But
On the
it's
nose, it's like-
refreshing still, which
yeah.
is kind of weird.
yeah, it's nice and crisp.
Yeah, on the nose, it is kind of like salty, but it's weird to think about. But like, I can smell how crisp it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
There's a scientific word for that somewhere. We just don't have it in our vocabulary yet.
I don't hate it. It's run of the mill. It's like it's not a good way to describe
it's-
something, but
yeah,
it is an
it's
accurate.
middle of the road. I don't know. It's delicious and I love it. I just don't think this can or description does it service.
Ooh, I did not like that second taste. First one, nice. Not too overpowering. A really, really good palate cleanser though.
Oh yeah, it's delicious, especially after coming off your guys' beers.
Super carbonated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not getting kelp from that.
I'm not getting Icelandic moss, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be, just something that they have in there
Yeah.
just to say it was in there.
Yeah, because I think on their website they said that it was the two guys that made this beer. They took a journey to Iceland and were just trying crazy stuff, and there's like, yo, this flavor profile would be dope as a beer.
Yeah.
And so maybe our palates just don't register a lot of those flavors or something. But I still like it.
Yeah, I think it's delicious.
It's still really solid.
It's weird because it's in the tall can, but I would definitely buy a 6er of them. You know what I mean? Like
and
a small can.
I think it's
sixer.
a very, very approachable Goza,
yeah.
especially Drew, since you said you liked it.
And certainly not least, but we are going to call it last here. We've got the Cardew Reserve single malt Scotch. I'll be honest.
Them legs.
Yeah, on the nose. Smells like it's about 40%. Which I guess makes sense, but it has like a sweet kind of a. If you know Scotch, the Islay Scotch has this kind of like a little bit sweet, not quite salty, but I think that it is going to pair pretty well with what the Goza is.
As we've said in far previous in the past episodes, me and Cory aren't necessarily Scotch guys like Drew is here. So for me, it always seems really hard to pick out any of those other flavors other than just fucking barrel, peat, and alcohol.
Yeah, it just tastes like really harsh smokiness.
Yeah.
This is not a smoky Scotch.
I like the smokiness. That's like the one thing I like.
It's smooth, lightly sweet. It's honestly, this is going to piss some people off. It tastes like a really high class Canadian whiskey.
So just from the aroma, it's just straight alcohol, but I'm definitely getting a lot of sweet notes. Oh yeah, that's actually really good. Like you said, it
can't
doesn't
sniff.
No, it's very harsh on the nose, but it's very, very sweet, and it doesn't have that smokiness and that I wouldn't say complexity because it does have a lot of complexity. It's just a different kind of complexity, but it is more like a whiskey complexity. Like it's definitely very strong, but I think it's one of the more approachable scotches that I've had. Like I don't hate that
For sure.
It tastes like caramel.
It's very, very sweet.
Toffee. You know?
Toffee, yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really is like there's none of that barrel wood flavor that you get.
Yeah, it
that
doesn't
kind of
have any of that.
Yeah.
It's still
It's very
potently alcoholic.
It's very
Yeah,
strong
for sure. But it's
as
like
you'd expect.
it's like toffee and fruity, like those kind of like sweetnesses.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think like the right way to describe it, but like it's just for like a Scotch that you just open and let sit for a while. Like it's smooth.
Oh yeah,
it's like creamy almost texture wise, like syrupy, which
Yeah,
is weird because the alcoholic drinks like that usually feel pretty thin, but it almost has like that coating sugary texture to it as well as an actual sweetness.
Yeah, just right away it was just sweetness, and then it just went into just alcohol burn, and then as it's just been sitting, it's just like a nice kind of, as you said, Garion, just a syrup, and then you get a lot of toffee notes as well, Drew, like you were saying, and it's just like delicious sweetness on the back of your tongue.
That's the best Scotch I've had.
Oh yeah, that's the
I
most
can't say I've had
different
many.
Scotch. Yeah, I'm not a Scotch guy. I try everyone that Drew brings, and I'm like, nope. Just like he's with sours, he's like, nope, I ain't about this.
Honestly, I would say it's one of the most approachable Scotches I've had.
Oh yeah,
just for
yeah.
the random populace.
All right, guys, before we move on from the burn of this delicious Scotch, I wanted to tell you guys that this episode is sponsored by Podcorn.com. Now, Podcorn.com is a website where podcasters, YouTubers, and creators like us can go to get matched with sponsors who specifically want to advertise on a podcasting platform. So for us, we just log into the website, check out the sponsorships tab, and we can go page by page over all of the different available sponsorships and choose exactly the company that we want to be sponsoring our episodes. Obviously, we're pretty choosy guys. We don't want just random companies splattered across our podcast. So we've been very particular about choosing which companies we want to work with. If you yourself are a Twitch streamer or a podcaster or a content creator in any way, go check out this website. It's podcorn.com/podcasters. Get started today monetizing that beautiful content.
All right, let's get back into the cards. We got
Got a few more.
Yeah, some more cycle stuff that are named after the commander. The worst of which, Daxos' Torment, 3 and a black from enchantment. It's a constellation, which is great. So whenever Daxos' Torment or another enchantment enters the battlefield in your control, it becomes a 5/5 demon creature flying and haste in addition to its other types till end of turn. Wow, is this one
Fast.
underwhelming?
Yeah, I think this is a callback to those super bad old cards.
Yeah.
There was like a
Artifacts,
hidden
right?
spider that if you cast a spell, it turns into a creature.
Yeah.
And there's like another one that's like a monkey that turns into a 3/3 or something like that. Like, it's a throwback to an old school card that does not translate well to the power creep.
Yeah, I love Constellation.
Yeah.
Especially in this deck where you make a token that is an enchantment that turns on Constellation. Fantastic. But it's weird that a 5/5 demon flying in haste is just not what you want out of this deck. It's cool, it's enchantment. It's a 4-drop, which means it can follow Daxos, and then you can like just kind of chain off. But this has always been a super, super underwhelming card.
Yeah, it's kind of slow and unwieldy. Like a 5/5 with haste is dope in theory, but you have to jump through some steps.
Yeah, I mean,
get it.
it's pretty easy to go through in the deck. Okay, let's talk about a good card.
A banger of a card.
Mizzix's Mastery. So this card is...
This is a game ender.
Yeah, it's a finisher for sure. So, 3 in a red, sorcery, exile target card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Exile Mizzix's Mastery. But wait, there's more. You can also cast Force Overload. When you do that, for each instance of target, you replace it with each. So, exile each card that's an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Yada, yada, yada. Effect, 5 red, red, red for that effect.
So in the right deck, this basically means exile your entire graveyard and cast everything in your entire graveyard for 8 mana.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's Yawgmoth's Will for instant sorceries. It's Underworld Breach without the escape clause. Like, it's just good. And this is one of those cards that will end the game.
Next one we got is Scourge of Nel Toth, 5 black for a 6/6 creature zombie dragon with flying. You may cast Scourge of Nel Toth from your graveyard by paying black and sacrificing 2 creatures rather than paying its mana cost.
It does have the ability just to get into these loops where you cycle it,
Sacrifice
and
creatures.
sacrifice
It's great.
things, but it's just too much because it doesn't really do anything. It's just a vanilla creature basically. So this next one is Calamny's Captain. It's 3 white for a 5/5 giant soldier with vigilance. Pay 5 white for monstrosity 3. And that just means if this creature isn't monstrous, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it and becomes monstrous. When Calamny's Captain becomes monstrous, exile all artifacts and enchantments.
Dope.
This card would be awesome if it didn't fuck you over at the same time.
All is symmetrical?
Yeah.
In the one deck that needs
Boros
some sort of
needs
advantage.
as much help as he can get, but no, let's just fuck everybody at the same time.
And the last one we have here is Azuri's Predation, one of my top cards in green.
It's one of the weirder board wipes.
Oh, I love it. Tokens and...
No one's ever
board-
expecting.
Yeah. 5 green for sorcery. For each creature your opponents control, put a 4/4 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. Each of those beasts fights a different one of those creatures. Make a bunch of beasts. They fight the things that they, were created for.
Yeah, my biggest problem with this is that it does not work with Azuri because he cares about 2 or less power.
Right.
Every other card cares about stuff: enchantments, sacrificing things, big spells, CMC 5 or greater. This one just makes a bunch of dudes, and like on your next turn or whatever, if they survive, you can overrun everybody. But all this does is make a bunch of dudes and board wipes. But
This is just-
other than that, it's dope. Flavors.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, I
Sick.
really like it. I think we can more or less skip through the next couple cycles we have here. So we've got the confluences, which, surprise, surprise, blue is the best one.
Blue is always the best one.
Just how it happens. I noticed that they didn't include a blue one with the commander name cards. They went double black.
Maybe blue's too good.
Maybe they figured something out. But yeah, Mystic Confluence, I think it's probably just a household name for...
Yeah, I think Mystic Confluence is the only one of these gets played. So there's Righteous Confluence, Mystic Confluence, Wretched Confluence, Fiery Confluence, and Verdant Confluence. Most of them are pretty mediocre to bad, except for Mystic Confluence, which is playable.
Yeah. 3 blue. Contract spell unless its control pays 3. Return target creature to its owner's hand, or draw a card, and you get to choose 3, and you may choose the same mode more than once.
That is the big caveat for these cards because you double up on all these effects.
Or triple up.
Yeah.
Draw 3 cards, or return 3 creatures, or make sure you really fucking counter that spell.
Extra counter.
This is one of the few counter spells that I run in my blue decks.
Yeah.
It's 5 mana. It is a
versatile.
pretty big investment, but it really just like hammers home the counter spell, or you can guarantee the counter if they're, tapping out, plus you get to do other things.
Yeah.
Like countering spell plus drawing 2 cards. Oh yeah, I'll pay 5 mana for that. Yeah, I'm on board.
That's right.
The next one is the Myriad. So, Cory, why don't you read one of them just to give us an example of what Myriad does?
So, Myriad is an ability that they printed on a cycle of creatures.
And
there's one of each color. And it's whenever this creature attacks for each opponent other than defending player, you may put a token that's a copy of this creature onto the battlefield tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker he or she controls. Exile the tokens at end of combat. So basically, you attack one person, you attack the whole table.
yeah, it's dope. And a lot of them have the effects of when they do combat damage or when they're attacking.
Yeah, like the green one's just a big dude with trample.
Banshee of the Dreadquire makes them discard.
Yeah, I think the blue one lets you draw cards. The
red and the white ones are the only ones that do nothing.
Yeah, the red one just has haste, which is meh, and then the white one I think just has flying vigilance. So you're probably gonna get the damage in, but it's pretty. They're a lot of fun because you can do some weird stuff with them, especially with
like ETB effects,
ETBs and like fighting things and like because they make a lot of copies of themselves. So.
And then the last of our cycles that we've got here are the signets, which are kind of cool because they were, like we said, enemy color signets.
Yeah, so it's a good reprint to have the signets.
Yeah, so signets are staples, and just making decks with them is always just a good sign for everybody.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we're going to talk about here is something that WOTC started doing in 2015 that has carried on until this very day.
So the Magus cycle specifically was cards that were printed 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. A new Magus was created based on a powerful sorcery effect. So 2015, we got the red one, Magus of the Wheel. This is the creature version of Wheel of Fortune. For the exact same cost, you get a creature version that you then also have to pay the activated ability and sacrifice to get the effect of the original sorcery.
Pretty good.
So yeah, we'll talk about that in the upcoming sets. And the reason why I'm including it now is because it has some pretty decent relevance for why they only printed 4 of the 5 that they should have had printed. Let's go real quick, Cory. The cards that you thought were important from this set.
So we just have a giant list, no particular order, but one thing to mention is that Thought Vessel. This was the first time they printed it, and they printed it in every deck, which I think is a very, very good idea. And when you see staples like these, I think they should be printed in every deck. Kind of like how you see the Arcane Signet in every Brawl deck.
Soul Ring.
Soul Ring in every deck.
Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots.
Yeah, just switched. These cards that everybody will play with in every deck because they're artifacts most of the time. I think they just deserve a spot in all of these precons especially. Because they might not be the most powerful cards, but they're definitely some of the most useful cards. So another one we have is Phyrexian Arena, another banger.
Yep. Vandal Blast.
Vandal Blast.
Probably my favorite artifact destruction card.
The Izzet deck had a lot of good ones, and same with the Azuri. They were pretty good on reprints overall, but except for the Boros deck,
which had one absolute banger.
Yeah. Urza's Incubator was a great card.
And they had one good new card, which was Blade of Cells. Which is just
I think that was
to give Myriad.
Also in the Boros deck. So I think those 2 cards was the only good ones.
Exactly. Then again, Sun Titan and Infernal Titan, like, not bad.
Yeah. They're also staple-ish because they're just really good all the time.
Command Beacon.
$20 card, only printed in the Simic deck.
Which is kind of weird to me.
Yeah, this is the first and only time it's been printed.
Yeah, I know.
Only in one deck. Why this deck?
Yeah.
The Simic deck that
of
ramps
all time,
and draws the most cards. This doesn't need any help.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
That's a weird include.
I mean,
I like the card, but
yeah. Eldrazi Monument was in the Marin deck, which is great because it's a very, very powerful card. Cares about sacrificing things and just making a lot of big dudes.
Yeah. A dope reprint was Black Market, which is in the
so
Daxos deck.
Kill on sight. Get rid of that shit. Another good thing is the Hideaway lands. They got reprinted in most of the colors, I think, and they're not cool. The worst lands.
The black one is the worst
fun.
of them, which is surprising.
Yeah, they're surprisingly easy most of the time to get, especially in 4-player games.
Yeah, the white, green, and red are the easiest ones. But we got Bane of Progress, which is just a banger. Again, only time it was printed, I believe, was in the Azuri deck. We had Grasp of Fate, another one that was solid out of the Daxos deck.
Commander staple.
Yeah, again,
I know, and the fact that it's in the
light.
Daxos deck and not in the Boros deck is like...
Yeah,
that makes sense.
WOTC
Based
It
on what
does
you-
make sense, but they should have just put 2 copies.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, WOTC just hates Boros.
But it was a red
It
card,
is.
or a rare. So they only put rares and Blade of Cells, like I said, Urza's Incubator, which is insane in a tribal deck. And I guess, Giants and Angels, cool.
Except you can only pick one tribe, and since it was
Giants.
split, exactly, yeah, it did not help that deck in one bit.
Arachnogenesis, which is another just banger. hey, I heard you like fogs. How about fogs with tokens?
Probably the best fog besides Spore Frog.
Yeah, Fog Frog, number 1, Arachnogenesis, number 2. And Corrosive Grip, just
Good.
solid.
About as green staple as you can get because it's one of the most powerful removal spells because it has split second. It stops combos. Like, it's so good in green.
So, Cory, you and I can attest to this a bit more than what Garion can just because of our experience with the decks. How do they perform? How do these decks actually play?
So at this point, WOTC was kind of doing that thing where they sort of had multiple themes splitting up each deck, and we've talked about that a bunch throughout this episode. And so the decks they weren't as smooth as you want them to be. You could kind of make them work over a long game, and that's kind of how we had to play them first starting out.
The Orzhov deck, just from experience, wanted to be an enchantment deck, but then all of a sudden it's like random ass life gain shit that just never worked for
It was
you.
like creature-based life gain, not enchantment-based life gain. Like, it was not synergistic.
It was a mixed bag of not great.
Yeah, it was really good because it just cares about big spells. It doesn't care about doing
It
anything
doesn't care
else.
necessarily about big spells, it just cares about instant sorcery and the fact that you can
that's
cast
what I mean.
low spells that essentially ramps you to play bigger spells, which you can play for cheaper because of the pseudo ramp that. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Marin was really solid out of the gate because she just cared about things dying, and in a 4-player game, things are always dying. Yeah, the Boros deck sucked.
It was trash.
It was just really rough.
You bought that deck to
as you
get
might
Blade of
expect.
Selves and Urza's Incubator.
You bought it to tear it apart. The Simic deck was really good just because it's Simic. It's just low, unblockable stuff, make big dudes start swinging, and then just ramp out big guys, keep your hand full, just do nasty Simic stuff.
There's kind of a common saying, and it's been relevant since at least 2015, if not way before, and that's just that Simic doesn't need any help.
No, it really
It's
doesn't.
always good.
And then they
One
took
thing
it
I would
over.
say about these decks is that a lot like the 2014 decks being monocolored, these were only 2-color decks, and so I think it's a little harder for them to stray away too far.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
they had to stick to the themes in these colors, but they still like drifted a little too far, especially in Boros. I mean, I don't know, the themes that they chose in Boros were just not synergistic at all. Like in these other decks, at least the themes synergize somewhat.
Good.
But Boros was just bad all around.
Yeah.
Simic,
Good.
Boros,
Bad. Yeah. You look at the overall power level of the set, and there are some like legitimately very impressive cards. But overall, there were just some glaring gaps in the decks. Like
Yeah.
the Boros deck, Boros has needed help for a long time. In 2015 was kind of like, it was kind of like a hey, fuck off moment from WOTC, where it was just like, hey, we're going to print this super cool commander that requires you to do the things that Boros doesn't do. And we're not going to give you support to do it. Instead, we're going to give the support that you need to a
All the
different
other
deck.
decks that you're meant to play against.
all the
So you're
colors
gonna
that
see-
you have that share colors with these other decks, we're gonna give it to them. We're gonna give all the good red cards to Izzet, and then we're gonna give all the white cards to the Orzhov deck. So I was gonna actually pose you guys. We just got Planeswalker commanders. Do you think we're gonna get allied experience counter commanders anytime soon? I don't know about this year because it's probably already been thought out.
No. If they were going to do it, it's going to be for Ikoria.
which could be cool. I mean, I would be down.
They are
for
doing
it. That'd be
5
sweet.
decks now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if they were going to do ally colors,
It would be
the
It'd
5
be
decks
That's what I'm saying, it'd
format
be
would be the
Ikoria.
one to do it.
Yeah.
I
wish we knew more about Ikoria because it's still under wraps.
Yeah, that's exactly my thing is that the decks are related to Ikoria. And so I don't think that experience counters, it doesn't sound like something that
Do you think we'll ever see that?
maybe.
I mean, it
think
could
that-
Would you
happen.
guys want to see that?
No.
I would be down for it. Why not?
Why? Because there's going to be, and granted, this happens every year, but there's going to be the one that's like the broken, the easy, the one that takes virtually no effort to go off. And it's the ones that don't need that help that get it, right?
That's true.
Like black-green did not need a sacrifice synergy to go off. But I just think that really what would need to happen is for them to like print these colors again and just fix them. Like
Do enemy colors again?
yeah.
And
give Boros something that fucking interacts with like ramp or something like that. Something that
get out
breaks
of
the
that.
color
You're
pie.
You're asking for way too much.
I know. That's exactly the point.
Not going to happen.
Sit down.
Like instead
Give
of
me that mic.
yeah, right. Instead of giving the colors that already do the shit they do well, and like, hey, how about I make this easier for you and just kind of break it that way.
Yeah, I think they're quickly and quietly making white one of the best colors.
They're trying.
They are definitely trying. Red still sucks ass.
Oh yeah, red's
but
terrible.
just printing cards like Teferi's Protection, and there's a lot more permanent recursion and like crazy board wipes and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
ways to do like
Ways to
sacrifice all of your lands and then get them back.
a lot
and
more
like,
value off of white effects. They're definitely helping that, and they're printing a lot more card draw and ramp for monocolor decks. But I think Boros as a concept still needs a lot of help.
Unfortunately, I think they put themselves into a catch with this set because they can't do another enemy color. I think if they released 5 more decks that were enemy color that were the same, but maybe better, people aren't going to dig that. And they definitely cannot put a Boros deck in any combination against anything else because that's fucking trash.
They would have to make it somehow the best deck.
Yeah, I mean, they would literally have to
try
like,
and
put
compete.
a million bangers in it to put it against any other combos of
Yeah,
decks.
they would
That's the thing.
they would either have to make Boros good, which they don't want to do, or print enough reprints to make it so people buy that shit.
Yeah.
Which also fucks everybody that
Yeah, it's not
buys
good
that
either
deck.
way. So I think if they were going to do 2 colors, I think ally colors would be cool.
I think
It'd be
that's
fun.
the way to do it, but I think that the like quote unquote correct way is to act as if this one doesn't exist and to say, hey, experience counters, we're doing it again. We're doing it right.
Yeah, because they had Oloro, which was Eminence before Eminence was a thing, and then they made Eminence thing. So I think that they'll eventually go back to
Oh yeah, I think
experience because I don't know when.
I think we're definitely going to get allied colors before we get enemy colors again.
I think Allied Colors is the next set.
You think so? Ikoria or the next after that?
Yeah, I think Cory is, but that's just like.
But
my
you don't think they're
personal-
going to be countered?
experience counters? No,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
that's just like my personal.
I hope
Intuition
I
for
hope
me.
it's not ally color because I think wedges are really good pre-cons just because they help people make those decks, and I think 4 colors they're just too crazy for some people, and the mechanics they have to do for 4 colors.
Well, they can never
get
really
are
shore them up.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so I think the 3 color decks you can sort of have this crazy balance that a lot of us like.
Yeah, I think 3 colors is like the good point, but I just think that that's like the next step is to go back to 2 colors and
Yeah.
to. I mean, it's just with Cory. They're going to print out so many commander decks in the next year.
Yeah,
so.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
it's gonna be something.
All right, experience counters. Is it a good thing? Yes or no?
I
Garion.
liked them.
I thought they were okay.
Cory.
Scary, but
Yeah,
they're cool.
yeah.
It's something that you want them to repeat.
Sure.
I don't know if I want them to repeat. I'm okay if they do.
Let's do the allied colors. Come on now.
Yeah, I think they definitely need to mix it up.
Yeah.
They can't just do the same old synergies.
Yeah, I don't want them to same synergies. I want them to fix shit, but that's just
Yeah, I want them to fix things or make new interesting things for color pairings that we haven't seen yet.
Let's break the color pie.
I give red enchantment removal.
Let's not do that.
That's the most broke. You can't break it that much. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's
I guess
too much.
I guess that's too broke.
Yeah, that's too
just
far.
like giving white ramp. Oh, crazy.
Last question we always ask: was this a successful product?
It got us into Magic. I think it's successful. Like the Boros deck sucks balls, and it's did no help for Boros. But I
It
think
actually turned more people off of Boros because
Yeah.
they would buy it because like it looks sweet. Like all of these other decks are doing the thing that they want to be doing, and I can't because I fucking can't even cast my spells.
Yeah, but I think it was new and interesting enough that a lot of people got into Magic because of these. Like a lot of people I know started playing because of these M15 commander decks.
Yeah, this
People
is
that
where so many people
when-
got into Commander.
Yeah, when I first started playing, I was like, "Do you play Commander?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, I just bought this deck." I was like, "Oh shit, I just bought this deck." Like people that had no idea what Commander was, like all of us got in on this point.
Yeah.
So I think at that point it was successful. The deck building kind of meh. It was still kind of scattered and not very synergized. The themes were okay.
I think the themes
kind of
were
on point.
Yeah, I think the themes were fine.
true
They
to
were
the
playing.
colors,
Yeah, they were
but-
playing off of recent sets a lot.
Yeah.
Which is all right, but they should have stretched the wheelhouse a little bit, and they did not.
Yeah. I think they were thumbs up. They were good. They were
I'll
the
give
best.
them like a thumb at 2:00.
A little floppy thumb.
All right, guys. So obviously we approved of this set to some degree since the majority of our play group was buying decks from this set. I personally never did buy any of these decks. I think technically I got into Commander as a format the year after when you guys had already kind of been established and I was still playing my janky modern fake ass bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
But these decks do look cool. I'm obviously a fan of Marin. I really like Daxos is cool. So obviously we're glad that they did what they did and hopefully they continue to improve. We are going to cover in next week's episode the 2016 Commander decks, which
Hype.
went on a wild path from
Mega
these
hype.
ones. So expect some good tasty stuff coming out of that episode. But for now, thank you guys for tuning in the podcast. Please drink responsibly, do not drink and drive, and do not drink underage. As we like to say on this podcast, guys,
Have fun.
And go get that experience.